I'd like to welcome you. You are now entering the InnerVerse.
Welcome to the One Within All to InnerVerse, your podcast portal to the ineffable, the infinite, and tonight the downright spooky. While we often prefer to place our attention on the love and light side of the universal spectrum, the darkness and shadow is still half of the balance in our energetic equation. And thus, the subject matter at hand for this episode is the life and times of recent history's most famous emo kid, the prolific author of the abject and wielder of disconcerting adjectives, Howard Phillips Lovecraft. Although not all of us may be familiar with his works, as I, for one, have only just a bit more than a surface level understanding on them, the far-reaching influence of his illuminated imagination has pervaded a vast swath of modern culture. There are many questions on the table, but to begin, I'll pose just a few. What is it about the image-generating faculty of human consciousness that can potentially give rise to such vibrantly malicious mysterium? Why are human beings so often drawn to these ludicrously demented ideas? What occult influences, discarnate entities, and esoteric contemporaries did Lovecraft lean upon to prop up his little shop of horrors? And at the end of the day, does Cthulhu have so many tentacles because he really just wants to hug all of us at once? And what can we learn by looking into the abyss other than the realization that it might also be staring back? Joining us for this chat is an all-star cast of creative minds who have each got a different slice of the podcast pie to offer up on our altar of darkness tonight, with the biggest panel we've ever hosted on InnerVerse, all of which have joined me and the gang on Weaving Spiders at one time or another. So I'm really excited to be bringing these people together. First up, we've got Gabriel, my personal synchro mystic spirit animal, Slick Dissident on YouTube, with a cup overflowing of observations into this strange Lovecraftian landscape, and a myriad of dots to connect for us. We're also joined by the brilliantly starry-eyed Kayleigh Berkana, our very own court astrologer, who's done a lot of digging into the sky clock configurations that correspond to the Lovecraft life path. And recent InnerVerse guest Mario Garza is with us as well, who's working to the many-layered cake of esoteric thought you can find at symbolicstudies.com. He's ready to help us see the variety of interpretations available within our other analyst ideas. And look out for Mario on Unslaved with Michael Tessarion later this week, a show we did together over the weekend that will definitely blow your mind if you are symbolically inclined. Last but not least, absolutely not the least, we've got Juan from the Juan Podcast. And I am quite excited to bring his cagey brand of humor and insight to InnerVerse for the first time, likely not the last time. And tonight, Juan's got a lot to share on the life history and writings of H.P. Lovecraft, having only just recently resurfaced out of the old one's rabbit hole and published a brand new episode of his show on this very stuff only yesterday. So there's a lot to get into. I'm going to be doing my best not to really talk and just referee this conversation. There's so much on offer, so much research these people have done to bring us a great episode tonight. I'm really excited. As usual, the first hour is going to be for free on YouTube, and then we'll have a mid-show musical break and cut over to Rockfin. The Rockfin stream's going simultaneously right now, so if you look in the show notes, you can find a link to that, and I'll be posting it in the chat as we go. You'll definitely want to make sure you got access to the juicy bits in hour two. You'll also be able to get it on my Patreon but it won't be uploaded till later because it's not easy to live stream to most of those places. But wow, we got the creepiest cast of weirdos and misfits I've ever seen on an InnerVerse episode. Super excited. What's up, my people? How's everybody doing?
I take weird as a compliment. Thank you very much.
It means master of fate.
I'm ready. I'm ready for this.
I'm good. I'm stoked to be here. This is a fascinating subject, and there's so many threads to pull at.
Yeah, the question is, who wants to start? Should we start with giving maybe Juan a chance to tell us Reverend Juan.
That's right. Thank you.
The life history, a little bit of H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, we can talk about that, set the stage a little bit. And I think Lovecraft is in everyone's hearts. Even if you don't know who he is, he has influenced modern pop culture, literature, right, on the levels that I say even of William Shakespeare. And this was a very intriguing character in history, one of the most prolific letter writers of all time. Some say 75,000 letters, others say 100,000 letters. And he was a virtual hermit. He was a weirdo. He was a geek, I think, and he never really had a real job in his life. He only got married one time, probably had sex one time, right? So this guy was weird. And throughout his life, he was writing and just writing and writing. And these letters that he wrote extensively. It wasn't like, "Hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you?" No, it was like letters, like books, just extensively. So we know a lot about his life, some parts more than others, right? His dad died of neurosyphilis at an early age when he was 3, I believe. And I don't have my notes pulled up because I didn't know we were going to talk about this. But his dad died when he was the age of 3 from neurosyphilis. He went insane. He was put in a hospital, and they told him he was in a comatose state, but there's evidence that suggests otherwise. Later on in his life, his mother would also go down from a botched gallbladder operation, and she would be put in the same hospital as his father, coincidentally. And so I'm going to back up a little bit. His grandfather was the one that really, I think, set the tone. We're talking about a kid that was reading and reciting poetry by the age of 6 and 7. And one of the topics that we might touch on tonight is his obsession with Arabian Nights, right? Where they say that this is what inspired his alter ego, Abdul al-Hazred. And again, the supposed author of the Necronomicon, which we all know and love. And his grandfather had an occult, I don't want to say an occult library, but I pulled some stuff up. I don't know how true it is, but he was a Freemason, and he did have some occult literature in his library at the time. We're talking about a successful businessman at the time until they lost it all. And according to my friend Anton, H.P. Shovecraft, the one that I did the episode with, he said they owned a dam, and the dam broke, and that spun them into where they would lose everything as a family. And from that, his grandfather died from the stress of that. They lost everything. And one of the 2 books that stood out to me was the Picatrix, supposedly, that was in that library, which you can say it's a book of talismanic magic, right, and these different entities. And it's a very interesting read if you haven't checked it out. And there was another book called Godzayer's Book of the Essence of the Soul, which, again, are things that potentially influenced Lovecraft and this mythos that he created. And later on in his life, he went through depression. He contemplated suicide and from losing the access to the library that his family had. They had to move to some cramped, small quarters coming from a Victorian home, which I believe is a museum now. And he eventually got married, and he would just write back and forth with his little pen pals that he had at the time. And eventually this created the Cthulhu mythos. And like I said, it's something that's always fascinated me. And I think a lot of people are big fans. Mind you, he was a racist. He was a product of his time. How we all are. So there are things that a lot of people criticize him for, which I don't encourage, but it is what it is. And it doesn't take away from his works that what he did for the horror genre. He was the one that a lot of movies, The Thing, the Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage, all these movies that we see that have Lovecraftian aspects to them. Video games, movies, card games, board games, all these things that sprouted from Lovecraft and things that we use today. And I've always been drawn to the whole cosmicism aspect to it on. It plays into the conspiracy theories that I talk about on my show, where there are these entities outside the fabric of reality that govern our lives that we don't even begin to comprehend. And that was the one thing that Lovecraft really put into perspective, where the indifference that we're just a speck of nothingness in this vast ocean of the universe of whatever this reality is. And there are forces which I believe the elites, the reptilian overlords, are in contact with, maybe with Cthulhu, who knows? And they let these things govern what goes on in this real life. And I've always been into Dungeons and Dragons and all the, the occult things, and it's always piqued my interest. So of course I've read Lovecraft and I've always been into him ever since I was in probably middle school, high school. So yeah, I think when I did that episode, we always land on these topics synchronistic, right? I bring up these ideas, and being part of this community that we're in, things start to pop up. And then you have people like Gabe, and you have people like Kayleigh and Mario who connect the dots, and that's what we're here for a good, not a long time, but a good time. So here we are, and that's a brief background on H.P. Lovecraft, where, again, he was born in the late 1800s, and he only lived a short life. He did die of cancer eventually, and I believe he died at the same hospital that his family also died. So there's this Lovecraftian curse, if per se, that has been like the shadow over Innsmouth, if you will, above this family, and that being, again, the shadow, wanting to conquer that shadow within all of us and master that. So that's my little intro, and I'm excited to get into it. And I brought up a couple of things on TikTok.
I just made that while you're talking.
My side hurts, bro. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's too early to start laughing, man. Really? But I brought up a couple. The thing that really pushed me over the edge was when I did a TikTok clip, and I said, what if H.P. Lovecraft, through his collection of Oriental pottery, he got possessed, right? Because we know the most famous jinn that we know about is Aladdin, the genie in the bottle. So who's to say that something didn't attach himself, right? These lower vibrational entities needed, right? That's what the reptilians want. They needed the creativity of man, the divine spark, in order to bring these things to fruition and bring these things into this realm. So when I made that TikTok clip, I was being called a pseudo-intellect because the great old ones have no master. And so that was the whole thing. Not that Cthulhu was a jinn, but that the jinn was Cthulhu, and he was the one puppeteering, right? And it connects to other figures in history, other mystics, if you will, in history. And here we are. And I think that's what kind of sprouted this impromptu show that we came to come up here last minute and make this happen. So yeah, I'm excited to see what else we can dig up on the old Lovecraft.
Yeah, often those last minute things come together more beautifully than the best planned things. So I really like that breakdown, and you touched on a lot of points that are going to be extremely relevant, particularly like his poor health and how that might have influenced his entire cosmology. Did you mention that he was like a staunch atheist as well?
Yes, he was just materialistic and according to his writings. But again, that's up for interpretation. And the reason I say that is because we know, right, the guy that we all love to hate, Aleister Crowley, he had works of fiction, right? The Moonchild book, where it was a work of fiction, but yet it could have been based on true events. And now, to withhold judgment from the people, maybe you put it out as as fiction. Yeah. But in reality, we know
will do that.
Yeah, it's the occult. It's the occult for a reason. He stated
Some say that
in
Tracy
his letters.
Twyman's Genuflect book was really about her personal experiences, but was put out as fiction.
Yes,
I want to hone in on a little bit of what you just laid down. You know, I'm sure that we're all mature enough to realize that there's no way everybody on the panel has the exact same worldview or sort of belief about these things. Like for me, when it comes to the idea of entities outside of reality, I struggle with that linguistically because I'm like, well, reality is existence and thus it's everything that exists. So how can something exist outside of existence, you know? But I don't dispute that there are layers to the onion beyond what we can perceive. And so it's really just a semantics issue when it comes down to it. Although I don't really share the whole, like, you know, some people will take this type of cosmology and the cosmic indifference thing really far and to a sort of dark Gnosticism place where like the world is a prison and whatever. There's no loving creator or creator at all. It's all just random and chaos. I want to point out that idea of cosmic indifference because there's a particularly popular podcaster out there, at least in the few years prior, he was really big, Mark Passio, who I first learned a lot of natural law concepts from. And he would really put forth and hammer home this idea that he called cosmic abandonment, which is kind of similar to cosmic indifference. His whole thing was that the primary trauma that human beings have suffered in the realm that has led us to this sort of generational psychopathy and all the different manifestations of evil in the world through humanity was that idea that we feel abandonment, similar to the idea of a child abandoned by his parents being their most powerful trauma, that humanity feels abandoned by its creator, which I think is really more like a knowledge gap rather than a truth or in reality, because it's a perspective gap. Because if you pay attention to nature and we learn these symbolic correspondences and we recognize the amazing mystical architecture of how everything is connected, then it seems like maybe we weren't abandoned and maybe this was made for us and it's in a perfected state. And it's just us that is, you know, smearing poop on the walls. Anyway, who else wants to weigh in?
Well, I got a few points I don't want to slip through the crack just from what Juan put down there. You know, I've been seeing a lot of signals in the higher up elite circles, and they didn't have much context for me. I didn't know what I was seeing, but I was definitely seeing these signals. And then Juan, I was on his show a couple weeks ago, and he absolutely put a crucial puzzle piece together for me. And that was when he told me that H.P. Lovecraft was fascinated with Arabian Nights. And all of a sudden, I had so much context for so many of these signs and symbols that I've been seeing. And a lot of you guys were with us on Saturday when I started going off putting these things together. But one of the major signs and symbols of very elite influential personas using Arabian Nights themes to kind of indicate that they're in the club and to nudge, wink, wink at each other. One of the real big pieces for me is that when you take Joe Biden's name and Kamala Harris's name and you break them into syllables, you can rearrange the syllables to spell Joe Can and Bi Harris. And those are the gates of Solomon's temple, is Joachim and Boaz. And that tells you that you're being initiated and there is more to know beyond. There's more here. There's something else beyond this. And so the syllables that you did not use can be reconfigured to the words Allah Din, which is Aladdin. And when you look at Aladdin, the movie, he had an alter ego. And his alter ego's name was Obabwa, which is Barack Obama. Barack Obama. And so this is when I realized that they are all in the club and there is way more to know beyond this. And then Chance brought it up on Saturday that Aladdin software is basically, I don't know.
Let me go into that. Yeah, Aladdin software is the BlackRock proprietary AI system that handles something like $21 trillion worth of funding and finances and stock trading and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, you maybe have heard of the idea of like the black box that has replaced humans in the stock trading market for the big game.
Yes.
Well, it's this thing. This is the OG thing. Looks
Right.
like Kayleigh dropped out and she's back in a different form. She is returned, renewed.
I've transformed.
I'm glad you joined the hooded club. We all got hats on. That would be a bingo square if this was Weaving Spiders Welcome. But yeah, when it comes to this idea of Aladdin, BlackRock's AI that controls the finances of such a huge percentage of the world's economy that it would make your head spin and your heart sink probably. It goes to exactly what Gabriel's talking about. In the big club, there's a huge, I mean, it's all replete throughout Masonry too, the symbolism of the Orient, if you will, the Middle East. So yeah, there's a lot there. And AI, even as a concept, it's been said that is summoning the demon. Elongated Muskrat said that specifically. Others have said that. And I think that when we're looking at the concept of disincarnate entities, it's really that we just don't understand what kind of body they're in or that they are, and that it's an electricity or a form of life force energy, dirty electricity, taking on the shape of its container or vessel or the circuitry that it's trapped within, in a loop, caught in a loop, energy disconnected from source that is in this technological imprisonment. I think like with the dark Gnostic idea of the demiurge and all that, the aspects and the members of secret societies, I won't say they're all like this, not every Mason or whatever, but the members that have this belief in cosmology tend to try and create that very existence in the world itself, whether it's through being the god of an AI in its machine, transhumanism, all of it connects. So
Can I want to add to that, Chance?
I want to kick it over to Mario first and see where his thoughts are landing. And, you know, I'm trying to play panel referee.
Yeah, sure.
So
no, I
hang on,
appreciate
Juan.
that. Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, basically, regardless of how Lovecraft's work came to be, we know that he was tapped in, you know, and so he kind of updated the pantheon, an older pantheon, for modern sensibilities, you know. And my angle with all of this is trying to understand his influence on the occult world since he published his work. And I don't know if people really realize, but his stuff is influential, obviously on a pop culture level, but also on a black magical underground sort of level, right? And so there are a number of books that are basically, you know, expressing this Lovecraftian magic, this black magical sort of way of looking at things. And the angle for me too that really got me interested in this material was realizing that there's this reverence and this nod to the North and the North Star and Ursa Major that I think goes really, really under the radar. But I've found material that makes direct reference to it. And I've highlighted some quotes that I can read for you guys. And maybe I might do that in the second hour, if that makes sense. But that's kind of the thing for me that really, really grabbed my attention was this Northern symbolism, because anyone who's been following my stuff, I'm such a geek for that, right? And so when I found out that Lovecraft was kind of seeding this in his work and that some of these black magical groups make use of these references and connect it to older pantheons and older gods and everything else, my head just exploded, you know?
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to what you've got dug up there.
Yeah.
And Kayleigh has sent me, I think, like 6 astrological charts. You want to talk about, you know, give maybe the 1,000-foot view of what you found in there, and if there's a particular one of these charts you want to zoom in on right now to maybe highlight some of the points we started out with in his history?
I don't want to look at those charts yet. Not yet. But we will look at them later. So I sent you 3 sets of charts for 3 events that we know happened in his life for the dates to look at what transits were happening for him personally and the progressions in his chart. Yeah, so obviously I'm coming at this from an astrological perspective. And when I learned about the connection between H.P. Lovecraft and Pluto, I was like, oh, really? Because Pluto, the theme of Pluto in astrology is all about the dark, the deep, transformation and rebirth, sure, but the darker side first, before that transformation occurs. So I spent a bit of time looking up like just some of the history of Pluto itself, and then looking at like some of the things in his life that like either corresponded or just crossed over. And so I was just doing a little bit of historical diving. And I just started smiling when Mario mentioned the North Star and the nod to the North Star, because do you know where Pluto was in the sky when it was discovered?
No.
It was in the sign of Cancer, where Ursa Major and Ursa Minor are.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. Okay.
Wow, right by
Isn't that interesting?
wow.
Right?
By the gates.
Yeah, specifically it was at 17 degrees and 46 minutes of tropical Cancer. So pretty close. So I thought that was really, really fascinating. But yeah, anyways, there's lots of little stuff like that.
Just a quick clarification. So when you say that, do you mean Ursa Major and Minor are in the wedge that Cancer also exists in the Deccan, basically? That's what you're referring to? Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
So just one quick theory I want to put out there, and that we can maybe start to build up, is there one of two things it seems to be going on here. Either everything we're about to lay out, it's just too perfect, it's too coincidental, it's just absolutely the perfect spell. And so conceivably, what I'd like to just put in people's minds is maybe all of this is like the first and largest LARP, black magic LARP of all time, in that these people's birthdays are just...
Gabe, did you see the comment in the chat to start calling the nefarious prankster royal inbred occult groups lack magical instead of black magical?
I love
black
it.
magical. I like that because the whole idea of black magic just demonizes an entire half of the yin yang of nature.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they're working in fiction. That is their domain. That is the realm that they are the masters of. They're the masters of fiction. So it has to be a false construct
coming from outside of reality, because it's fiction.
Because it's fiction. So, and this is where also our subconscious, they can seed our fears, that false energy appearing real. That's fertile ground for them. And so all these ideas, what I want to do today is I want to approach this with the opinion that maybe all of this is bullshit, and that it is just a big fabrication of immense proportions. And I just want to put forward that these are the masters of fiction. And so, and if not, if I'm wrong, and that is his birthday, and all these things actually do line up in the most perfect way, then it gives us a better perspective of the magnitude of the opponent and the monster that we are up against. Because we're going to bring in weather control. We're going to bring in the Typhonian order, and, people who claim to be able to summon typhoons and storms. That's part of the lineage of these black magicians. It goes back hundreds of years, and the full scope of things is a lot for people to even consider. But to put this in context, Pluto is about to return exactly from the location it was at the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Wow.
And that is the width and breadth of the spell that I think we are about to attempt to put words to and give perspective on the fact that Pluto is going to return from 1776. Yeah, Kayleigh.
I also don't think that it's an accident that we're talking about it now. The reason why I think that is because when Pluto was discovered, the south node of the moon, so the north and the south node of the moon are 2 points that basically talk about, it's where the sun and the moon's ecliptic paths cross, right? So where those points are is where we have eclipses. So when Pluto was discovered, the south node was in Scorpio, which is where astrologers have assigned Pluto to rule. So Pluto now rules Scorpio. So South Node in Scorpio, and now just this year the South Node has moved back into Scorpio, so it goes around every 18 years, but the fact that this is coming up now is just mind-blowing to me. So we've got the Pluto return in the United States, we've got South Node in Scorpio, so it's almost like we're having a karmic repeat, if that makes sense. Just kind of super bare bones explanation. That's where I was thinking when I was looking up this stuff today.
And to add on the Pluto talk, let's not forget that H.P. Lovecraft talked about something at the outer skirts of our solar system before Pluto was discovered. And now that you guys are bringing all this stuff together, because it's just blowing my mind, there is a feature on Pluto named after Lovecraft's Cthulhu. Okay, so let's not forget that Pluto's playing a big role in this. Pluto being Mickey Mouse's dog. All these things that come together. Where is it a coincidence? Are we conspiracy theory? I'm wearing my tinfoil hat on right now, but I don't know. It just makes too much sense. But let's not forget that there's a feature on Pluto named after Cthulhu.
Yep. And the second law of the second hermetic principle is correspondence, which basically means sounds like, is like, looks like, relates to. All of these things are key ingredients, crucial ingredients to magic.
That's right, exactly. Good point, man. Also, just on a synchronistic level too, it kind of makes sense that we're talking about this in Pisces, in my opinion. You know, it's the end of the zodiac. You know, we've been in this celestial ocean for a little while now. You know, it corresponds with the moon card, which is like very like mysterious, and you're dealing with like the subconscious or unconscious. And there's a lot of people who think too that, you know, when you're talking about these ancient gods like Cthulhu, that, you know, maybe a more practical correspondence is that you're talking about our subconscious or unconscious, right? Yes. There's people who take that to like the next level, and they're like, no, that's really what you're dealing with, right? And so all of the gods are within us, including the Lovecraftian ones.
Nice.
Fortunately or unfortunately, right?
Yeah, man.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was looking up Pluto and Pluto's discovery. And is my sound better, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So I was looking this up because I thought that was fascinating, and I remembered reading that Lovecraft was super into astronomy and was very well read in astronomy. So much so that he was writing his own pamphlets
journals,
and stuff for journals. Yes, thank you, journals. So anyway, I was looking it up, so the search for Planet X is how this started, and I'm just going to adjust my audio a little bit more. Okay.
And X is a big thing right now. Everything is X. Even the word climate change. The word change is a mutable X. Hulu plus, LGBTQ plus, all of those X's, those are mutable signs.
Totally.
Go ahead, Kayleigh. Sorry.
That's okay. So in 1902, there's an astronomer named Percival Lowell who discovered that the orbits of his comets that he was seeing kind of indicated that there was some other planet beyond Neptune, but they didn't have any proof of this yet. And he didn't find it before he died, unfortunately. So anyway, he died, and one of his students, Clyde Tombaugh, I believe his name is pronounced. He actually was the one that picked up his work and discovered it. So Pluto's official discovery was February 18th, 1930. And Lovecraft didn't die until 1937. So he would have known about this mysterious planet X and that they were looking for this planet. And he probably would have found out that there was something actually discovered. So I think that's super cool. And just one more thing to throw into the fire.
37 is a very important number for a lot of my worldview and systems. The 37th degree parallel is the Mason-Dixon line. It is where I place my equinox on my Tarot Tories work. So when I see 37, it is not, I don't believe in coincidences. So that's very meaningful right there.
Oh yeah, you see Providence maybe?
Everything is Providence,
a relevant
baby.
phrase.
Yeah, man, you got it.
Wasn't Morpheus? Was it H.P. Lovecraft?
Well,
did he sign letters as "I am Providence"?
Mm-hmm.
You got it. And Morpheus was nudging, wink, wink.
It's on his
tombstone. Given a nod that he's in the club when he said, "I do not see coincidence. I see providence." That's the seeing eye of Providence. And Providence is
CIA?
a very important location.
Is it the CIA?
And also,
Eye of Providence above the A-shaped pyramid? CIA?
And also he talked about the Silver Gate, right? And Morpheus, to add some wood to the fire, He talked about, right, I can only show you the matrix. It's you have to walk through that door, right? So the silver gate, I think, is Yog-Sothoth, the one that guards it, right? That silver key, okay? You gotta have that silver key, silver being another thing, right? Alchemy and all this stuff. So it's got a lot to do. Again, he states that he didn't have enough money or time to be an occultist, and that's why people go, oh, he wasn't an occultist, but it's a cult for a reason. I mean, some people are going to talk about it, some people aren't. And you can't deny the fact that all his aspects, all these things in his stories are occult. They're occult AF. You know what I mean? It's there. If he was a practicing occultist or not, maybe he's like me. I researched the occult. Do I practice it? No. Maybe, but a lot of his things in his works was occult. So again, that's there.
Especially his name. That's your introduction. That's your initiation. I started looking into his name, and all kinds of Twilight speak, double meanings, nested meanings within meanings started popping out like crazy. But we'll get into that later. You got something, Mario?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it is a cult, and there's a reason why his work has taken off the way it has with occultists, right, over the last, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years or something like that. And people just keep on adding to the pantheon and kind of refining it and coming out with these different rituals and spells and different versions of the Necronomicon and everything else. And kind of for me, what I think about is the fact that I don't think people would do this if it didn't work. So if there wasn't some basis that actually was like functional in some way for these people, I don't think that there would be this whole kind of like mini industry of like Lovecraftian like spell books and workings and all this kind of stuff, you know?
Great
It's chaos magic.
Make a really good point there. I think what may be going on is like a public initiation into the type of, okay, so symbols connect to other symbols that share correspondence and meaning. So for all we know, there's already some kind of big daddy egregore, as in massive thought form of collected human energy, mental energy, that has got some sort of a link or a tap right into the ceremonial magical workings that get given out to nerds who just like horror role-playing games and stuff like that. And maybe then go and practice some of the stuff in the books. I don't know, but it's been a thing in the modern mystery schools and probably ancient ones that at a certain point at your initiation levels, you accept into yourself or into your energy field entities that will give you power for something in return. And usually that something in return has everything to do with your free will and autonomy to do anything against the group or go outside of whatever directives you've been given. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been there, but I've heard plenty of stories like this, from the Golden Dawn to even some branches of Freemasonry. I can't say point the finger at everybody everywhere that's involved with some kind of a secret society or occult teaching, but the fact is there that they believe that they can interact with what is probably presented to the initiate as entities that exist, pre-existing, old ones, whatever, elemental beings, these type of ideas, angels, demons, what have you, jinn, definitely jinn. But so it could be that they're being created by the collective belief in some way. That's it's energy that's being put into a container that has the shape of whatever the name of the thing is.
Go ahead.
Okay, another interesting theme of Pluto that connects to a lot of the topics we've been talking about lately. Scorpio and Pluto also have very close ties to childbirth, to pregnancy. And that connects directly to the whole placenta conversations that we've been talking about. And Pluto's like death and life, right? Rebirth. So it's the cycle. And there's a point brought up in the chat about Pluto.
Well, and Pluto's also the inheritance, right? It's your inheritance. That's the placenta too.
Yes, exactly. And the fact that Pluto was discovered while he was transiting Cancer is just like, it's just one more little like piece of the puzzle that just continues to blow my mind.
Right.
That's brilliant.
And number 9 is the most pregnant number there is. It's
the most sperm.
Mutable number that there is. It's just as you're about to cross over the threshold.
It's a little
And
sperm, bro. That's why
you
it
got
looks
it.
like a
And
nine.
number 9, eventually,
Yep.
if I pull up the Enneagram, we'll see that number 9 is at the crown. It's at the top of the Enneagram. And it represents Pluto in Enneagram systems.
Gotcha. Yeah. And also under the vortex-based mathematical way of looking at things, it's the queen number, right?
Nice.
If I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
Yeah, but you're right. It's the sperm, which is why it relates to the hermit card, which is number 9 in Virgo.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
and
yes.
here we go. Okay. And then I'll bring this up later, but I'll just put a footnote in it. When I pull up my tarot Tories, guess where Providence is?
The gooch.
Providence, Rhode Island, that is, which is
Providence,
where that's
Rhode
where Lovecraft
Island.
lived, right?
Is right
Yes.
at the spot where you cross over from Leo into Virgo. It's right at that liminal space in between.
Which is
And
his
he-
sun sign.
And he was like a virgin. He was a shut-in for most of his
Mhm.
life. He
Mhm.
was relatively abstinent as far as we can tell.
His
Wasn't his
wife
sun
made
sign
him.
Leo right on the Virgo cusp, Kayleigh?
Sorry?
Isn't his sun sign Leo on the Virgo cusp too?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild.
Guess how old he was when he got married? Just take a wild guess.
33.
Yes.
And his wife made him read, like, what's it called, Kama Sutra, where to practice sex, because he didn't know what love was. He was super awkward and he lost his virginity at the age of 33. 2, mind you, he was a super racist and he married a Russian Jew. Okay, so again, and she was the one that was making him read all these books about sex and love and all these things.
Yeah.
And and I wanted to bring up, 'cause, I mean, we're talking about Lovecraft. It wouldn't be Lovecraft if we didn't touch on the mythos. And earlier, all these aspects of mind and dreams, Azathoth, which is the powerful creator that made this existence, we're his dream. We're in this, they call him the blind idiot god, and this is his dream right now. So again, this whole thing of these things existing outside the realm of reality, that time has zero effect on them. This is what it's all about. And we know that these occultists, right? What do they call it? Lack magics, guys? Is that what we're gonna call them now?
Lack
Black
magic.
magicians.
Lack
like that.
magicians. They use symbolism. Like at my wife's job, her time card system is Chronos, right?
Right.
Father time, Chronos. I'm like, what? When she was on the phone, I was like, what'd you just say? She's like, Chronos. I'm like, do you know who that is? The black cube of Saturn. Like, you know what I mean? Like people don't understand this stuff, but it's how Chance was talking, that we're carrying this intent. That's why I tell people, know your history, because a lot of the things that you're using and reading and taking, and we know that health is not just what you physically eat, it's what you ingest as well mentally. And these things, the reoccurring theme in Lovecraftian horror is people who peek through to the other side, this forbidden knowledge, and the great old ones, the deep ones, all the elder things, the outer gods, they latch on to people's thoughts. They have nothing else. They just drive people insane, which again, if we all know from looking down rabbit holes, and Nietzsche says, if you look deep down into the abyss, eventually the abyss is going to look back into you. So
Yeah.
again, these thought forms, these egregores, these are real things that people don't understand, that it's real. This is not just fake. It's not, they don't just make movies about this shit. It's
Yeah.
real.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a lot
I
of
want to
people-
bring the spiritual perspective to what you're saying right there. You mentioned Lovecraft's concept of the demiurge type entity. He called it Azazoth, right? And
Yeah, the great deity. Yeah.
so there's this thing put forward about the deity Azazoth that is dreaming all of reality, that there are sub beings within this reality that are older, more powerful, eternal things, that their whole role is to like keep him asleep,
Yes.
keep him lulled to sleep, because otherwise everything would cease to exist if he woke up. Well, I think this idea and getting to the basically repackaged, fictionalized Gnostic belief system, not all Gnosticism, but the sort of pop culture Gnosticism we get now about the demiurge, about reality being a prison, about everything being fake, about the Matrix, all these things that are pushed on us, they come from the fear that the guys like Lovecraft or other occultists that are power seeking in a sense bring to the equation when they go and tap into the inner light, or they try to connect to source. They try to break some of the barriers of consciousness into an expanded consciousness experience. What that is doing is it infuses your whole being with light. And whenever you have the experience of a higher dimensionality for a temporary spell, and you bring to that experience your own fear and the impurity of your own health and your bioelectricity being dirty in a sense, in some way, your vessel being cracked, what happens is that influx of energy just amplifies what you've already got. So it makes perfect sense to me that these lack magicians, when they go through their rites and rituals that maybe had origins in a more ancient and purified practice that maybe prepared the body better before and prepared the initiate better to receive a higher level of expanded consciousness. Well, they go into that experience all demented to begin with, and what they get is just the most fearful thing that you could ever amplify, which is that, oh, if I go too far, if I push this door open too far, then I will cease to exist because I'll blip right out of this fictional world. And that's the greatest fear for the ego you could ever have, because then everything that you built or owned and had disappears. I know because I've had this fear before. I know because I've had experiences like this before where I started to like kind of phase into a wider spectrum of existence and a bigger witnessing of nature. But I went into it with impurities, and the experience for me was like the ultimate fear was that I was going to cease to exist, or that this reality was going to disappear. So I'm speaking from experience here, that I know that some of these guys crack open doors that they're not ready to crack open. And when you shine a lot of light into your body vessel, it's going to show exactly what's there. And if it's contaminated and impure, then it's going to be something scary that you witness there.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of people have a habit of assuming a passive posture when they go, like when you consume a lot of horror film, you go into a passive you have agreed to pretend. You've paid in advance to just sit back and take it in and go along for the ride. And that's something that I've gotten really good at, is I'm in control of my imagination. I'm steering this ship, and I'm not letting anybody try to put me in a state of fear. Sorry,
Amen,
Mario, were you
brother.
going to say something?
Oh no, you're all good, dude. Yeah, I was just gonna say, some of these black magical groups, they actually vet some of their new initiates by seeing if they could go through some of these rituals and seeing actually if they come out with their psyche still intact, essentially.
Yes.
And so they figure, if you made it through this ritual, you're good. You can join us and do other workings or what have you. And if you can't hang, then you can't hang, sort of thing.
Right.
So they use this actually as a tool. And then one other thing I was going to say as well is that, from my understanding, some of the Lovecraftian groups that are working with the lore for their workings, some of it is to contact various entities from this mythos. But another component is that they believe that they can use the mythology and this reverence and working with the North Star in Ursa Major as a gateway out of here. So it's like an astral sort of portal thing where they can take off and then do whatever workings they can do on the astral level and then come back. And so in a lot of ways, these books and these rituals and spells and stuff are tapping into a lot of other ascension material. And so that's one of the books that I've read that kind of bridges the gap between what's going on with these groups and other cultures and whatnot ascending, using their vessel. Sometimes it's referred to as like the Merkaba or chariot or whatever. There's all sorts of different ways of looking at it, but part of the goal is to actually take off and then return.
Man, I just had a huge revelation while you were speaking, man.
What's up?
Ursa Major, that's a 5 and a 4 chance. Saturn and Jupiter, that's 2 pillars. That's the gates, the 2 pillars of the temple. U and M is a 5 and a 4. 5 is the shape of Saturn. 4 is the shape of the symbol for Jupiter.
Whoa.
Well, yeah, exactly, man. One of the books that I'm going to reference later in the second hour is The Gates of the Necronomicon, and it's all about Ursa Major.
Oh, we're going to have a fun second hour. Let's take our time. Ease in. So I want to share. Can I share, Chance, the screen?
Oh, yeah. It depends on if Kayleigh had something to pop into this part.
Yeah.
We've just been on, because she may.
Nope. That's good. Keep
Okay.
going. It's fun.
I got a
this
couple.
is great.
I got a couple little proofs to kind of prove our words here. Let's see. Okay. Can you pull me up? Am I pulled up?
I don't think I see your share yet in my interface. So
You always have this issue, Gabe.
I do. Something came around because I've been able to do this before.
this
great
was the
old ones at
only
work.
thing that interrupted the perfect and seamless production of this episode, Gabriel. How dare you?
It
Just kidding, man.
I feel like something changed because I have shared on StreamYard many times before. Let's see.
They don't want you to drop your knowledge.
It's up now, and
Oh.
here, let me know when you're ready for me to show it. Looks like you are.
I'm ready.
All right.
So here we have H.P. Lovecraft's birthday, August.
Can you zoom
20th.
in on some of that text with the mouse wheel?
Yeah.
Cool. And it'll let you drag it around by clicking.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So here we have him on August 20th, right on the cusp of. He's basically a Leo, about almost a Virgo, and here we have this is called a pre-scovery date, or pre-covery is the day that the first indication that Pluto existed came exactly on his birthday when he was
Whoa.
19 years old. 19, that's a AI. 19 is a AI. It's also an archway of initiation. 19. It's a full spectrum. There's pillars right there. Also, his death date was one day after Pi Day. 314 is Pi Day. He died the day after Pi Day. I find that very significant. Sorry for the. And here, one more thing I wanted to pull up.
That's
I had
wild.
pie before we came on stream.
You gave us the infinite recursion loop. It's so
Sorry.
tricky when that happens. No, it's okay.
Are you guys? Can you see me now?
Yep.
Okay.
This is what I was really interested in right here.
Yes. So this is very interesting. So from after listening to Juan's show, which everybody should go over to Juan and check out all of his work. But I was listening to how Lovecraft's mother and his aunts would take care of him. They were overly protective. And this triggered some of my other knowledge of history in that the royal Russian family, the royal house, RH, Royal House of Russia, had hemophilia because they were so inbred, they were unable to, for their blood could not clot because they were so inbred.
Mhm.
And so Alexei, of the last of the royal bloodlines in Russia, Alexei had a blood clotting issue. And so he had a nanny who would follow him around everywhere. And they were overprotective of him and he hated it. So when Juan was discussing how Lovecraft had overprotective matriarchs, I started to consider, could he be of the royal bloodlines? Could he also have hemophilia? And that's very interesting because Rhode Island Providence has a RH in the name Rhode Island.
Whoa.
And he was obsessed with his station, his birth as a,
Yes.
Yes.
gentry, if you will.
Yes. So I looked up hemophilia and I find out that the word hemophilia has a very technical definition, is blood lover, one who loves blood. A hemo is blood and philia is to love.
So now we're in a vampire mode.
And now we are straight looking at vampires.
Psychic vampires. Yeah.
You know, there were things that I read that said that there were periods in his childhood where he wouldn't even go out until nighttime.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he was a
Interesting.
virtual hermit. He would literally. This is why I wore this, because there was a time in H.P. Lovecraft's life where he would literally walk around like this, and he would look straight ahead, almost like Vampires Kiss Nick Cage, where he would just, I'm a vampire, like the whole thing. Again, it makes total sense to me. I don't know about you guys, but it makes sense to me. So
Yes.
That's going to take us right into our conversation about the Typhonian orders, who on a recent, I don't remember if it was 69 or 68, but I was diving in for us on the Order of the Vampire within the Temple of Set, a subgroup within there. And, they were like laughing at the idea of blood drinking, but I think that concept is still valid, very valid, because even the etymology of the vampire, it connects us right back to the ones with fire, PYR, peer,
Yes.
Pure. The
Yes.
pure bloods.
shit.
Even when they're called the pure bloods, they're talking about the fire. They're talking about the pirates, the pirates, the skull and bones, the skull and crossbones. It all links into this symbolism of the upward pointing triangle, if you will. There's so
Yes.
much to that. I mean, I'm just
And-
scratching the surface.
And his name is Howard Phillips. How red fills his lips.
I love the way you think, dude.
Yeah, brother. I got a couple. I'm going to save it for the second hour. I did some not just anagrams. I started I broke one of my rules for this one, and I started getting into some sigil work. I like to keep it anagrams because anagrams are objective truth. You don't leave any letters out. You use all the letters, and it says something crystal clear. But for this one, I had to flip the M, and I turned the V into a U, so it was old Coptic language. I broke a few rules for this, but I'll save that for the last one.
You bad boy.
Yeah, man.
Rule breaker. Hey, well, I want to kick it over to Kayleigh and see if there's anything that we can dive into astrologically right now. Because I don't want to leave the first half without. I know that you're going to have a lot to
with
say.
no
but
gravy.
I don't want to leave
we
the
could
first half without all the good, without any of the big insights that you've gleaned out of the charts. It'd be really,
Yeah. Okay.
a
Well.
bummer.
Yeah, I was trying to look at certain events that happened to see if I could see them in the charts. And turns out you fucking can. And honestly, I think this guy had a ridiculous amount of karma because it's terrifying. So Chance, actually, if you could open to save you guys from the horrible screen flicker, so we don't have to deal with my graphics card, I'm gonna get Chance to do all the legwork for me. Thanks, Chance. Yeah, if you could pull up the.
I don't even have to use my legs.
The first date of stuff that I sent you, the progressed chart for July 19th, 1898. Yeah. So that is the date that his father died. So you want to zoom in there. So the blue planets on the inside, that's his birth chart. Okay. And then the orange planets on the outside, these are the progressed planets. So what a progression is basically is every year after you were born, your chart moves forward 1 day. So the sun will move forward 1 degree every year. Most of the other planets move pretty slowly, and the moon will make the most movement. All right. So when you're looking at a progression and you're trying to identify when events are going to happen and whatnot, essentially what you're looking for are conjunctions between a progressed planet and a natal planet, or squares or oppositions, but conjunctions are the most powerful. And as you can see just from this chart, the sun in the outside wheel is now sitting less than 2 degrees over top of his natal Saturn. And when it comes to Saturn, Saturn is considered like the lord of karma and death, and you guys know all the Saturn mythos, right? We just mentioned him, Kronos.
And he was 3 years old.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
a Saturnian number. 30 years is a Saturnian year.
that's
Whoa.
hardcore.
Yeah.
But to kind of make the case a little stronger, so the houses in the natal chart that rule your parents are the 4th and the 10th house. So they are labeled IC and MC. The IC is in Capricorn. The MC is in Cancer. Incidentally, less than a degree from where Pluto was actually discovered. So that's kind of interesting. I just noticed that just now. Anyway, and so the ruler of Capricorn would be Saturn. So this sun conjuncting Saturn is kind of like it's like setting off a trigger point. But I didn't get enough information just from this progression to be like, okay, yeah, that's definitely it. That definitely happened. I needed to look at the transit as well. So if you want to pull up the other chart that I sent you for July 19th, 1898. It's like, okay, so the sun is coming in and triggering that really hardcore T-square that he's got. A T-square, sorry. lingo. T-square is when you have two planets in opposition. So in his chart, he has Mars opposite Pluto. And then the T-square refers to one planet that is 90 degrees away from both of those points. So this is a lot in a very short amount of time, but hopefully you guys are staying with me here. So
big ass red line, this thick red line.
Exactly. That's the opposition that I'm talking about, right? So for the transits, so while his progressed sun is now sitting on top of his Saturn, indicating something to do with authority and his father or mother. Saturn could be either or. Hadn't decided yet at this point. Thank you, Chance. While the sun is sitting on top of his Saturn, Venus comes in and conjuncts that point as well. But then if you look down at where his natal Mars is, Saturn is now transiting in that spot. So the planet of fucking karma is now conjuncting his Mars, which is all about your vitality and your energy. And for his chart, Mars rules his 7th house and his 2nd house. 2nd house has to do with like your physical body, your values, food, etc. 7th house is like partnerships, but it's a very important planet. So the planet of like death and time is activating one part of this massive T-square, while the sun in his progress chart is activating another huge part of this T-square. So it was just like a matter of time before these planets like went and then hit that massive T-square for things to happen in his real life, and then a parent died.
Wow,
so it's pretty hardcore, like how it like goes around like that. Anyway,
so you said it rules over his food, and it's the red planet. It's the blood red planet having to do with food. I'm just pointing out, I'm picking up these little patterns.
Yeah, the second house cusp being in Scorpio being a very like vampiric kind of sign to me. That's very interesting. Now, not everyone with the Scorpio second house is going to have an appetite for blood, okay? I'm just putting that out there. All right, but anyway, just looking at these dates and looking at the progress in the transit charts, it's just so crazy to me. What else did I see with this? He also had so the transit nodes, the nodes of the moon, in this chart here, his north node is sitting on his natal IC, and the south node is sitting on the natal MC. So when that kind of happens, it's like with the south node, you are being asked to let go of that, and the north node, you're being asked to go towards that. So in this case, he's being asked to let go of his public life, the MC. That's what the MC is. It's your public persona, kind of like the highest that you could reach for. It's where the zenith in the sky is, if you think about it, just on a logical correlation level. And then the IC is like, you have to go within and focus on the internal for a little while. So that's very much like a huge trigger point with his father's death there, to be like, okay, you gotta go within now. But anyway, that's just one little teeny tiny
I see providence.
Yeah.
That was great. Thank you. And man, a lot of the stuff you guys are bringing up totally fits nicely with some of the information I want to drop on you guys in the second half.
Do it.
So that's really cool.
Well, let's go around the horn.
Gravy.
I hate to ditch this huge crowd we've got on YouTube, but I have faith that some of you will follow us over to Rockfin.
I got one more gem that I'd like to just leave.
Oh yeah, there's no time limit.
Okay, just one more share here, if I can manage to not fail again. Let's see. Oh, I think I solved my problem. Is that working?
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
So move that little thing that says StreamYard is sharing your screen at the bottom. You can just drag that over.
Right.
And then make sure you give us some good zooming in on things that you want to focus on.
All right.
This is great.
So this right here is a very famous image. This was probably put in everybody's mind in high school. If you took a history class and you learned about General Jackson slaying the many-headed monster of the Banks, this was probably in your school books. If very likely, like incredibly proliferated image right here. And so what is about to happen is adheres to the definition of magic, which definition one of many definitions of magic is alignment and manipulation of natural elements in concordance to your will. So I want to just kind of close off I want to make this assessment, this grand assessment, that if the banks are about to collapse, if the finances are about to all turn over, that they are summoning very ancient fears and historical phobias that have happened to our elders. And so these fears of a collapse are in our DNA. And I think that they are counting on those elements, those natural elements of our memory, our memory from the past, be it whatever worldview you have. If you believe in reincarnation or you don't, either way, it's in our DNA to be afraid of financial collapse in the battles that are inevitable as a result.
And one thing about these planets and anything astrological is that there's a shadow and a light side. There's many ways, like no one really knows the future when they look at astrology. They see tendencies, they see potentials, they see possibilities. Maybe they see providence. But the whole point of social engineering is to plant symbolism into the subconscious minds of the people and generate the outcome that is desired by influencing everyone's on the feeling level, on the emotional level of what they feel like and think is about to happen. So I want to put it out there that if we don't believe in the spell, and like we don't live our life as if we're about to experience ruin and wreckage, and instead orient ourselves towards sovereignty and liberation and a new level of way of connecting to wealth and prosperity outside of whatever booby trap, mouse trap, cheese on the mouse trap thing that they've got set up for most people. We can experience the plutonic aspect of like wealth and riches and prosperity and abundance and transformation. And that's the key here. That's like part of why I want to bring this information forward. It doesn't just be like, look at the spooky Cthulhu monster.
Right. The barter, we got to get on a barter system, exchange of real goods.
I got one more thing. I don't know if it's going to muddy the waters or not, but we're talking about you're talking about financial collapse, which we're seeing now. And we're talking about money. The Great Depression happened through his lifetime. 1929, the OG Black Friday. How does that play into everything? Did you guys dig anything up, or maybe on the second hour we can decipher a little bit about Black Friday and the Great Depression, right? All these things, because that was during his lifetime. It was 1929, which there was a financial collapse. Yeah,
that's interesting because 29 is that's a more accurate Saturnian orbit. Black Freya Day, that's the that's Saturn's wife is Freya. Can you pull me back up, Chance, real quick? I would just want to make these quick correspondences. Okay, so
zoom in on that.
Yep, I did the gematria for Pluto return and the gematria for H.P. Lovecraft, and I got some really interesting numbers. First of all, this image of Cthulhu, it has 3 wise men.
Oof! And the
See
baby,
the 3 wise men.
The baby.
They're even disjointed, exactly like the belt of Orion. It's just a little bit of broken line there, definitely indicating that Osiris, the belt of Orion ritual. But I couldn't help but notice the 249 and the 249 in H.P. Lovecraft. That is so close to Pluto return. It's 248 days. But what really stood out to me...
Days or years?
I'm sorry, years. Thank you.
Just want to clarify.
Yeah.
That would suck.
Yeah. So, and then I saw all these 54, 54, 54, 54, a whole lot of 54s. We got a 45 down here in septenary. And 5 and 4, like I said before, that's the occulted symbol of Saturn is this trippy looking 5 symbol, and the 4 is Jupiter right here. I consider those 2 pillars, and they are very clearly 2 pillars when you look at the Enneagram here. And you have Pluto is number 9 up top, coming through the gates.
Ruling the underworld because everything below the 9 is under it.
You got it. You got it.
I love that, dude.
So I'm done. You can take it off. That's all I got on that.
I got 2 things to add real quick.
Yes.
Number 1, thank you, Chance, for bringing in the light. Because you're right. Anybody can look at a chart, but the one thing that you'll never see in the chart is the human soul, their individual willpower and their soul. So you're exactly right. The planets will show tendencies, and it's up to you to make the decision whether you're going to be a passive passenger, like Gabe was hinting at, or take the driver's seat and make the choices that you know need to be made to better yourself as a human being. 100%. And you can never ever spot a psychopath in a chart. Trust me, I've tried. Okay, I have tried. You can't do it. So that was one thing. So yeah, thanks for that. The other thing I wanted to briefly mention was Pluto's crazy orbit. So this is what we're told, right? We're told that we've got the sun and the planets orbiting, and they're all kind of on the same plane, and right? This is what we're told. And then there's Pluto, and he totally breaks this pattern. His orbit, from what we're told, I don't have a telescope to check this out myself, but we're told that here's the plane of everybody else's orbit, and this is Pluto's orbit. Kind of goes like this. And rather than being more circular and perfect, it's elliptical. And there is one point where Pluto came in between or in front of Neptune. So he was closer to Earth than Neptune. And this was the point when Pluto came like this, and then crossed Libra, and then Scorpio, and then down into the underworld, and then is like on the way back out. But anyway, I thought that was super fascinating and just kind of like a weird, kind of like oddball thing. That is,
so is that deviance
like
from
that.
The ecliptic part of why, like an occult reason why they're like, it's not really a planet?
Yeah.
Oh,
maybe?
yeah.
I don't know. Could be.
That's like that's almost that was our disclosure that it's like we're dealing in fiction. Oh no, it's real again. Oh no, it's fiction. Oh no, it's real. If it's real, you can't unmake it and recreate it.
We showed you. Ha ha ha.
Right.
No, we're gonna take it away.
Just kidding.
I think this is it. I think this is the point of transference over to the premium side on Rockfin, and then later uploaded to Patreon. But plenty of time. Nobody's got to rush. I got to let you guys go around the horn, talk about your work, how people can connect to you, anything that you want to share about your work at all, and as much about it as you want. Like, I want to make sure we all get a chance to give the audience a way to hear more of our perspectives individually if they haven't heard of any of you particular folks before, although they very likely have. So let's just start with Gabe and just go around clockwise. Back to me.
Nice. Slick Dissident is my YouTube channel name. My name is Gabe. And I gotta say, like, I'm probably gonna do a continuation on this work over on my channel, because a lot of what we're bringing to bear here is kind of giving even more substance to my Tarot Tories work. My Tarot Tories work has just begun to really take life. So come on over and see where I take this from here, because the 2 or 3 hours that we do tonight is just the beginning. I got a feeling this whole thing is going to really launch off. But come over to the second hour and get a taste of what I'm talking about, because we're about to summon the Cthulhu from the deep.
Unleash the Kraken.
I'm not summoning shit. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, me neither. That wasn't my plan tonight. What are you talking about? We want to do a Territories episode on my channel too, because I really want to bring that information forward to people and all over the place. It's so innovative and unique and insightful. So yeah, Reverend Juan. I believe that they can find you at the one-on-one podcast with the @ symbol, according to your tag there.
Yeah, so I love how I turned into a meme during this whole time. I was trying to be serious, bring some some culture to this podcast stream, and I just get made fun of. But yeah, find me at the Juan on Juan podcast, and it's the Juan on Juan. You guys keep calling me Juan to Juan, but it's all love. It's all love. It's all love.
Thank you.
And I think I said one-on-one.
Yeah, at the beginning. You guys are like mixing it up, but it's all good, it's all love. So find me on there at the Juan on Juan podcast across all social media platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all that good stuff. I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/the Juan on Juan podcast. I post exclusive content on there for the people. And yeah, I have a podcast where I talk about the occult, conspiracy theories, all the goodness, all the good stuff, H.P. Lovecraft, all that goodness. So yeah, follow me on there.
All right, Mario.
Yeah, so you can find me at symbolicstudies.com. I do a lot of work based on the zodiac right now and the tarot, and so I make bite-sized videos that are like 1 to 3 minutes long, and I have a few projects in the works right now. I'm going to be releasing my first digital product, some elemental correspondence sheets. Gabe, check those out. Give me some feedback. And yeah, I think I'm going to start doing readings for people and study sessions too. Some people wanted like one-on-one, Juan study sessions just to like dive deep into certain symbols or signs or cards or whatever. So that's something that's going to be available here pretty soon. But yeah, symbolicstudies.com. You can find all my social stuff there.
Love to see you expand in what you're doing, man. You're a wealth of knowledge. Appreciate you here.
Thanks, dude.
That goes for all of you, actually.
I would totally come to some study sessions. That would be sweet.
Hell yeah. I'm into it.
That'd be sweet. Okay, cool. Yeah. Hi, my name's Kayleigh. I'll be here all week. Sorry, I'm definitely not used to I'm not used to plugging myself, so this is weird. But anyway, yeah, so I do have a YouTube channel. It is spelled exactly like my name on screen here, Kayleigh Berkana.
Oh my god, Cthulhu came into the chat. Webcam-chat.com, hot girls and boys video chat. Sorry.
They've come for us, oh god. Yeah, so yeah, you can find me on YouTube. I don't release videos very often because I've been studying so hard the last little while. But yeah, I do astrology readings. I love doing natal chart readings. Something that I have been exploring lately, actually, that I haven't started doing for people, but I plan to very soon, is figuring out the conception or fertilization date and looking at that and comparing that to the birth chart. So that is... Yeah, I'm really excited because I did it for myself for my own chart, and then I ended up immediately after that listening to the Placenta Apocalypse episode with Gabe and Cheney and having like a religious fucking experience while I was listening to this podcast after figuring this out.
That's what I was trying to create with that episode. I was trying to create like some transcendental awareness there, man. Because it blew my mind the same way when the dots started to connect.
I was sitting there like literally crying like, oh my god. But anyway, so that's kind of what I've been into lately, and that's what I do. So yeah.
All right, all these beautiful folks are linked in the show notes, and we're gonna play the YouTube crowd out with some music and give ourselves 3.5 or so minutes to stretch or get a drink or go tinkle, whatever we got to do. But in closing, in this first hour, I just want to bring this image up of the universal order. You got Cthulhu, puppet stringing Galactus, then the gray alien, and then the reptilian, and then I don't know what. It goes all the way down to, your standard bankers and oligarchs. But the point of me showing this image is that if we believe that there's an external power that is greater than the divine spark within us, and that is able to order and ordain our life in a way that constrains our free will and in any way revokes the spark of individuality and the destiny of uniqueness that allows us to thrive and enjoy and experience life for all of the offers that it's got for us, all the beauty, all the love. If we ever believe that such a boogeyman exists, there will always be a bigger one than that one, and then a bigger one than that one. And we will continually project both our shadow and virtue into the external, into the void, and thus nullify our potential across the board in ways that we cannot understand until we take and reclaim that power back. So the real beauty of returning to reality and dispelling fiction, as we're trying to do with this conversation, while also considering the possibility of yes, externals, and of yes, life force energy and configurations beyond our understanding. All of it, in my intent and the meaning that I want to bring forth, is that we got the power. Cthulhu ain't got shit. If you see Cthulhu, tell him that you know he's a part of you, and ask him what he knows. You know, be like, tell me what's up. Find out. Instead of fearing and getting all divided and disjointed by these boogeymans that really exist in the mind. Just because something's in the mind and in the imagination doesn't make it lack reality, essentially, because everything's imagination. But what's important is to recognize that we are the source. We are the imagination. We are God, the God that dreams reality into existence, all of us. So that's the beauty that I want to bring forth out of this like horrific darkness and transition into hour 2 with this music. And it's going to be all kinds of crazy. So we'll put up the beats, and thanks everyone for being here. See you on the other side. This track is by Danheim. It's kind of like some dark Norse folky epic-y thing that I found and dug up. So see you guys on Rockfin. I'll link that in the show notes again, or in the chats, and also in the show notes you got everybody's links. Much love. Thanks for showing up to our Cthulhu party. It has been awesome. See you on the other side.
Peace, y'all.
What? Wrong music? Okay, this is the one. No, that's not it. Okay, hold on. Oh my gosh. It uploaded clunky, so I can
Mercury's out of Gatorade. What's going on?
I can fix this instantly, though. No worries. No worries. Here we go. What the hell? Hold on. Maybe this didn't render right. That would be a bummer. 1 second.
This is awkward, right?
This is awkward, dude. I thought it was going to be the most badass,
Those
smooth
fucking
transition
Russians.
ever. Hold on a second.
We could show Juan's sweet show intro that he made.
I bless this by the power vested in me by the Church of the Subgenius. I bless this stream. So
Boom.
You know what? Why don't you know what? I won't let this stand. I want this to work. So this will take like 5 seconds to render. You guys just shoot the breeze for 5 minutes. I want this mid-show music. I put it all together. I can't just waste that work.
Can I just say I love you guys? I appreciate this so much. This is fun.
Likewise.
And
Ditto.
I mentioned in our private chat leading up to this that since we're talking about H.P. Lovecraft and fear, that I was, every time I come on camera, I'm facing some pretty big fears. I don't like public speaking. I don't like confrontation. I don't like any of that stuff. So I appreciate you guys being as awesome as you are, that I feel comfortable enough to do stuff like this. So
Nice.
Yeah, and you're doing great.
yeah,
Seriously.
Beautiful.
Awesome info.
it's all love. You know, that's
Yeah.
what it's all about. And I mean, I was one right when I first started. I was listening to the first episode I ever did, and I'm just such a completely different I was cringing at myself, hearing myself on the very first interview and podcast I ever recorded. And it was, you know, I've evolved. I'm way more confident now than I was way back, and I couldn't even imagine. You know, I do have some sort of social anxiety. I'm a little bit of a Lovecraft myself, but you know, it's all love, and this is what it's all about. This community, right? They're so supportive and so cool, and I just love that about it.
Yeah. You know, I was when I listened to Juan's breakdown on Lovecraft, you mentioned that one of Lovecraft's lines is that fear is the most powerful emotion in the human experience, and that was when I know we're dealing with fiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is when we crossed over into the realm of fiction, because he is not correct.
More than
He's
meets
never-
the eye.
he's
That's
never
right.
been in love.
That's right. Love is the most powerful force that there is. He just hadn't got there yet because he was a damn virgin forever.
And that's why the Pythagoreans regarded the number 8, right, the infinity symbol, as love, because, right, love overcomes everything. And that quote that you're talking about, it's the strongest and oldest kind of emotion is fear, and it's fear of the unknown, right? Fear of the
Nice.
unknown, which
That's
I got
it.
some stuff for the next the second hour of this on some stuff about stuff that's gonna get real juicy. So can't wait to get into
Definitely.
it.
Some VIP club stuff.
That's
So come
right.
join us on Rockfin.
I just
in
realized
25 seconds, this music will be rendered out and ready to play. I have corrected this on the fly. That's how good I am.
I just realized that Virgo is the 9th month. There's another 9. We've been talking about Pluto all along, and I missed the most obvious 9 staring us in the face the whole time.
Yeah. So if you look at the Hermit card, he's even making a 9. So he usually has like a hunchback and everything, and he's holding his lantern. It's the 9th card, and so he's actually like evoking the number 9 with that position, with that stance there. You know,
And you
it's
know
one of my
what?
favorite cards.
Let's just point out that that's when the fucking towers went down.
9/11/11. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, hold it. We're going to the second hour.
All right.
We're ready. It's gonna work this time.
See you in a few.
Yeah, thanks for for bearing with us, and just got a little bit longer of a show. It's all good. See you on Rockfin. Watch for the link in the chat if you didn't already see it.
Peace, y'all.
There will be a timer on the screen to let you know how long you got for your break.
So we just come back here.